right. You're in the after for Voices of Integrity with Passions for Passions. So this is going to be an interesting one. Ben, where would you like to take the after for this one?
Kind of want to know what I was avoiding, if I was avoiding something subconsciously.
Or don't know, maybe, maybe not, maybe it's okay, and so we're talking about Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. And
Right.
so I think that you're going into the self-actualization. What does that mean? Some call it your why. Why am I doing the things I'm doing? Some call it a life vision. So your passions, I believe, are going to be surrounding your life vision, what you were put on this planet to do. I think if people don't understand that, and I don't know that that's a one-time situation. I think that's an evolution. But I think it's the essence of it. And so your passions, why do you have your passions? Are you being a good steward of your passions? Are you using your passions to just fulfill yourself? Or are you using your passions to go ahead and fulfill other people? And so I think you're in a season of life. I think you're in a season of life that most men don't get to until they're probably in their 50s or 60s.
Okay.
Questions?
So isn't that the whole main purpose of this podcast, is trying to figure out what my passion is, or my world goal?
That what you'd like it to be?
I thought that's what it was, kind of was what we kind of started it for, was trying to figure out my passion so that I could figure out what my life goal is.
So if that's what you want it to be, that's what it will be.
Right. But what if
So Ben, I remember you and I talking a while ago, and I threw out a couple ideas of choosing one or two things and going for it. Have you done either? I think I'm trying to remember what they were. Do you remember what they were?
do not exactly? I remember having the conversation, and I remember the podcast for the most part. But I don't think I actually went for a few things. It was like putting something on the fridge.
Yeah.
So I think Ben, in my experience, people hit a wall, like a runner's wall. Like in two situations where they become very introspective about life and about their purpose in life, and they become very introspective. And one is going to be around when they're massively successful. They've done everything they've dreamed of doing, and they've done everything they've dreamed of doing, and they find it all futile. Like I've done this and it's futile, and I've done this and it's futile. Like I've done all of these things, in the end, not fulfilled. So that's one.
I think I'm hitting that stage though where I'm like, hey, I'm married, I got my house, I got everything. I'm starting to hit that stage, because before it was all about women, trying to impress the girls. It's like now I got a wife, so I want to keep trying to impress her to a point. But it's just like, I don't know if I'm like hitting that stage where it's like, I'm like, okay, I impressed my wife, awesome.
Right.
What am I doing now? Where am I going? What am I
It's not
doing?
important anymore. Married.
Right.
So
I don't know.
Think then once you go ahead and achieve what you want to accomplish, for your passion for this podcast, I think you're going to come up empty. When I say empty, I don't mean a bad thing. I don't mean a negative thing. I think you're going to go ahead and say, okay, that was good. That was a season of time. That was awesome. Now, this is a new season. It's like a butterfly when they were a caterpillar. It's okay to be a caterpillar. Nothing wrong with being a caterpillar. but it's cool to be a butterfly. And so I think it's going from one season to another. I think that if your life vision isn't bigger than death, I think you're going to hit a lot of points in life where you feel lost, and you are. There's a sign on the wall of my son-in-laws and my daughters, Josh and Ginger Ann, where it says, all those who are wandering are not lost. It's interesting. You
That's a
know,
good one.
it is a good one, I think. You know, I
Good one.
think so. So I think that you're on a journey. You know, I think you're on a journey. And so I think
You don't think I'm overthinking it at all?
I do not. Not at all.
Sometimes I feel like it's like you got your whole life. Awesome. Cool. But I feel like so minuscule and like almost like an ant, where it's like your life vision, you know, are you really going to do much? You know, but maybe impacting one person in your whole life is awesome, I guess. I don't know.
Right?
But even that, it's just like then there is to impact another person, then it's just a big waterfall of like falling dice or whatever you want to call it. Or
I met
whatever.
with a guy this week, and I think, I could be wrong, but I think I don't know if he's in his early 60s or late 60s. He's older than I am, I'm pretty sure. And we were talking, and he said he wanted to get to know me better, like Ken. He's a lot like Ken. His name's Christopher. And we were talking, and I don't know, somehow it came up about the life vision at 8, where the first things I heard out of my creator's mind or heart or mouth or whatever it was, Mark, you're an average to below average kid. He paused on that and he said, really? And I said, yeah. We talked about that for a while. And it was an interesting conversation. Never had a conversation quite like that before. And he said, so, like, you're no better than anybody else on the planet. I'm like, I'm not. And he's like, what did you think when you first were exposed to that, when God spoke to you or whatever? Like, when you first heard that, what was your response? I'm like, I'm 8 years old. I'm like, I could tell I was just average or below average. I just was. And he says, so you were okay with that? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's okay to be average or below average. It's like, it is what it is. And he's like, you're not a poser, Mark. You're not a pretender. You're very honest and you're direct. I'm like, okay. I didn't know what to think about that. And he said, so you don't really. So he said, one of the challenges I've had, Mark, is I want to impress people. I want to make people happy. Like, I'm afraid. I have this fear. And it was cool to see somebody that was transparent, so transparent. It was like really neat. I'm like, okay, cool. And he says, it's like you were given, he says, like, I don't think I want that so much anymore. I'm like, okay, when did you discover that? I think he said, I don't know if it was 58 or 68 or something. So it's just recently in the last, I don't know, few years and he says, yeah, it's an amazing gift that you have. Like, what's that? He's like at the age of 8, you realize that you're no better than anybody else, and it's okay. But yet, the second part of that is you're going to impact the whole world if you're a good steward. So if you're a good steward with what I give you, you will impact the whole world. And it's like, it was weird on how he talked. It was like, okay, and he's talking about me, but I'm like, yeah. So most people, Ben, would say that you're way further advanced than most other 25-year-olds. And I think you are. I think you're running into challenges, mind thinking that most men, like I observed in my 20s, when I was in my 20s, I observed that most men work, 30, 40 years trying to accomplish something, be good at something in their life, their occupation. So whether it's a firefighter, or whether it's an accountant, or whether it's construction, they pursue something that they're good at. And I observed in my 20s where men who are in their 50s or 60s were having second thoughts. And I'm like, how sad. You spend 20, 30, 40 years of your life, and then you wonder, like you're wondering now, I impact one person or I impact 5 or 10 or 20. Like, is my life significant? So I think it's okay where you're at, Ben. I don't think you're overthinking it at all. Not a bit. It's weird. I think it's almost like a feeling. It's almost like a flow. Like understanding that you were created as everyone was created in their mother's womb. Well, unless they were outside their mother's womb. But anyway, still, the sperm comes together. There's a creation. I hadn't noticed this in Maslow stuff before. I'd never seen this creativity. Frank Forte said to me years ago, he was in the military and in the Navy, I think it was, and he programmed nuclear subs. So really a smart guy. Like, and he said, Mark, as long as I've known you, you've been creative. You're a creative person. I said, okay. I didn't realize that about myself, but okay, I see what he's saying. And he says, do you know you're living in God's creation when you're creating things? I said, I didn't. I never thought. He says, yeah, God's a creator of things. So I wonder if we're all creative. I mean, I wasn't an artist when I was growing up. I didn't look at myself as being creative really till I probably turned 45. And then I'm like, huh. So I think where you're at is okay, Ben. But I think where you're going is even more exciting because I think that you're going to help your generation. I think you're going to help my generation a lot. I think you're going to help the generations. I think you're going to help. So how do you be okay with where you're at and not? Like how do you be satisfied? I mean, when I was 19 years old, mom was 18, and I said we were getting ready, we were engaged and get ready. And I said, if we can't be happy with what we have, no matter what if we don't, if we can't be happy with what we've got, no matter what we get, we won't be happy. When I look back at that, it just flowed out of my mouth. I'm 19 years old. And I'm saying this to my wife. Like, if you and I can't be happy with what we've got, no matter what we get, we won't be happy. When I look back at 60 down to 19, and I'm like, holy cow, that's some pretty profound stuff for a 19-year-old to say. So I would say I'd encourage you, keep going what you're doing, keep pressing after it. You try different things. I think it's like, your youngest brother and I have talked about addictions a lot. And he said, Dad, is there any good addictions? And, I think being addicted to doing what you were created to do. Like if people could just understand the intelligence and the care that went into creating who they are, everything would be different. I mean, everything would be different in this world if people could understand the work, the intelligence, the sacrifice, the wisdom, and the caring that went into the creation of them when the egg and the sperm connected, and how that miracle of life came about. If people could just understand that. But with that, Ben, comes a huge responsibility. Like if I was created to do something amazing, which I believe everybody is, well, then I have a responsibility to do that. And if I'm not being who I was created to be, that's going to create a lot of mental health issues. Does that make sense, Ben, or not so much?
Yeah.
Anything else that you wanted to accomplish in the after?
No, but I gotta get going here.
All right, buddy. Love you.
Peace out.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Ken, did you want to go ahead and share your story, or did you want to save it for next week?
Well, it just happened yesterday. I don't know if I'll remember next week. So I was just about, it was interesting that I went to Paul's graduation. He's my youngest son. So he graduated from Kent State, and he's interesting. Anyways, he was ticked after the graduation because he was tired of the graduation. He actually he said, I feel like leaving after he got his diploma. And it's like an hour and a half to 2 hour ceremony because they're giving all these diplomas out, and it's hundreds of people. Anyway, so it took us a little while after the ceremony, after everybody's released, took us a little while to connect. And when I got to him, I could tell that he was perturbed, irritated some. And he asked me, "Can I be honest with you?" I said, "Definitely." He goes, "I'm just ticked off that I have to spend time and energy trying to talk with you and talk with Mom, and you guys can't meet together. We can't meet together. I've got to deal with you and her and all this stuff, and I just don't want this to ever happen again." I said, "Okay." I said, "I'm sorry about that you have to walk through that." And he goes, "What does that mean? Sorry," or something like that. I said, I wish that you wouldn't have to deal with that. Is there anything you'd like to do tonight? What would you like?" And he goes, "I want to have a picture with you and Mom and me." I said, "Okay, let's do that. Is there a way to do that?" And it was interesting, by him being transparent and honest with me, it just gave me, like, within my power, it didn't matter what I thought or felt. It was like, we're gonna take a picture. If it's my end, I will do whatever I need to do to take a picture with him and me and Emily. And so we did that. We went out to ice cream together, and we met separate. We went separate, got there, and Emily's sister Laura was there. So I think that's the first time I've seen Laura in 2 years. And that was interesting to see how she barely would look at me very much, and I struggled with looking at both of them. But we got our picture. And why did that come up? I'm trying to remember. That idea came up to my mind, but I don't remember. Like, I'm having trouble remember exactly why that.
Yeah, I was
related,
too.
but
I'm like, how was it connected? But I didn't even remember what it was around. But it's with Tim and I. When I was on the couch and I went and had a panic attack, and then he said, "Stop it." I think then you said,
yeah,
"Oh,
maybe that's it. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like when your child says something, then it flips you. Now you can do that in other ways, and I definitely haven't attained that thing where you can just, but I mean, that's, yeah, I think that's what it was. It was like when Paul said that to me, it was like it flipped me in me where I just was able to set aside, at least at that moment, to say, okay, I'm in, I'm ready, let's do it. Um, so anyways.
So Luke, I'm curious on why you're on.
Not sure myself. I need to go over some stuff with you. Just have some small questions for you.
Yeah, okay. So
That can be done.
So um anything else? We have to button this up. You know, it's weird, Ken, because I'm reading about about the trauma that all these college graduates are going because of the protests and everything, and how they didn't go ahead and they got, I mean, so traumatic, so hard that they didn't get to 4 years ago, they didn't get to go to their high school graduation, and then they didn't get to go to their college graduation. And I don't think I went to my high school graduation. I don't think I went to my college graduation either.
Yeah, and that was interesting too. Like Paul said, I wouldn't have come to this graduation if you wouldn't have asked me if I'm going.
Is that
So he's
just
angry about that. He was angry about that, even though I said, so should have I not asked you that, if you were going? Because I said, did you feel pressure from me to, because he said this too. He goes, if it wasn't for you and mom, I would not come to this graduation. So I'm not even doing this for me. And so for me, I've got this thing on me that I don't ever want to be an overbearing parent. I don't want to tell my kids, I don't want to be an overbearing parent, like demanding them, or I wanted to
any
let
ideas where
them be
that
an
comes
adult.
from?
Why?
Where?
Where it comes from?
Yeah,
I think it's because I've seen parents do that, and I don't want to be that.
I see.
Like
So it's not
like I've
mom and
seen.
dad.
No, I don't think mom and dad were. I don't think they were. No, it wasn't as a response or a reaction to them.
Yeah, I don't think so either. If anything, they were just the opposite, I think.
Right, I think so, and I don't want to be that either. So that's why, I'm like, and it was interesting because to have that conversation was so cool because he said, "I'm glad I came." So it was almost like he's got this, like he's angry because he doesn't like all this. But then he said in the text, he texted me in the ceremony, "If you want to leave early, I'm in, or I just want to leave now." And I texted him back. I said, I don't think it's a good idea to leave now
Right?
because
For him.
it's like for yeah, for him or for anybody, because it's like, what if you were at the end of this and people get their diplomas and they just leave? And they actually, I think that's happened because the ceremony at the beginning, they said, please do not leave after you get your
Right,
diploma to
right,
make it so that everybody will enjoy, the thing. And it's
right.
just, I envisioned this picture is all these people getting their thing, and you're at the last, and there's like 20 people left in the whole 20 graduates because everybody else has left and people are
Or
leaving while you're,
three, you
yeah.
and your mom and dad. Right. Well, it was funny because at Rosanna's college graduation, like we were sitting in the stands, massive, just a massive. And Rosanna's dad, he said, you probably heard this story before. Maybe
I don't
not.
know.
So he
I'm not
went
sure.
ahead and said, do you know why we're here? And I'm like, well, to celebrate and to recognize. He says, who are we recognizing? And I said, the graduates. He's like, no, we're recognizing all the people on the stage with all the regalia. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, you might have told me that because I was actually thinking of that. I was thinking about the president and all these other people and thinking, I wonder how many of them just really, this is what their pinnacle every year is to wear this and be honored, and everybody's doing so, everybody's saying happy, good things about, and I, oh my goodness. Yeah. Some of the things you've said, it rings in my head when I was like, are these people just, is this president saying how good his staff is so that the staff will say how good he is? And
Oh, that's what I didn't really, because you and Dale didn't do that. I don't remember you guys doing it so well. Maybe why it's a small church, but in big churches, man, I'm telling you, that's just the protocol. You just go ahead and get up and tell how great the other pastor tells you how humble you are. You tell them how humble they are. Everybody's humble. Everybody's this and that. It's amazing. And that's what happens. And so it's funny because her dad never graduated from high school. Neither did her mom. Neither did anybody ever in her life. So she was the first one in both generations that graduated from college or
okay.
graduated from high school for that matter.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's interesting. This is what I, miss about her dad. Like, because he has that, it's like he has that wisdom that maybe gets wiped out when you graduate from high school or college. Like you lose.
But you get that. That's been what is the word? Substituted, right? You got a number of people like that, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
The Amish is like filled with people like that, right?
Oh
You get
yeah.
all kinds of people that have
they're amazing. I mean,
I know.
it's insane. Like, Alvin Miller. Like I've been looking for him. I don't know that you'll ever be able to meet him while you saw him there, but have a conversation and I'm not going to be able to, I'm not going to be able to share like he does, obviously, and I'm not connecting any dots. But when he said, and I'm not sharing you this story for you and me, I'm not saying that. And so he said when he was 14 years old, he went ahead and realized he was competing against his dad.
Right. Yeah.
And then he just decided to stop it.
Right.
But if people don't realize they're competing, they can't even stop it. Like, how at 14 did he realize he was competing against his dad? And then how did he just stop it? So Luke, he asked, when he saw the video, he's like, and you just, the same question you said, why people don't like it. Can you just stop it? Well, Henry Ford said, if you believe a thing to be true or believe it not to be true, either way, you're right. So if you believe you can't stop it, you can't. If you believe you can do something, well, you're right. Not maybe right now, not this instant, but eventually you'll be able to do it, probably. If you're willing to do the work, take the risk, make the sacrifice. Anything else you got, Ken?
Oh no, I think I'm good.
All right. Like I always say, come early, stay late. That's where the stuff happens. Have an amazing day.